So we're just excited about getting back out there. We've got a couple days with helmets only, as you know, and then we can get into some pads and start to get down to some quality work. We're going to work really hard in improving the running game, as we've talked about for the last couple years, and we've got a number of offensive linemen back that we feel good about. We'll be more mature, and in the throwing game, we've got guys that are experienced at that position. Obviously, Mason's back, and then we'll get quite a few reps with Taylor and Kolar this spring. Defensively, we want to really get back to our base defense. It's important we're in the right position. We want to be sound, want to tackle well. So my message to the staff this morning was that we want to have a really quality 12 practices. I know we get 15, but you have a game and a couple that you can't really do much. So we want 12 really quality practices of base offense versus base defense. Steve Hauser's now taken over our special teams as our graduate assistant. He took over, I don't know, maybe right before the bowl game. And so we'll continue to work with kickers, punters, and our 4 special teams units and develop those. So we're looking for a lot of enthusiasm. I'm excited about being back out there and have a team meeting at 1:30 and we'll get started today.
Mike, I've always wondered, and you've embraced it. It's kind of been the way spring's been every year since you took over. But you do that first week, 3 practices, and then break for the spring break.
Sure.
And then come back. What makes that format? What do you like about that format?
Well, we like practice on Monday, Wednesday, Friday throughout the spring. We go on Thursday this week because some of the players have Friday travel for spring break, and we don't practice on the weekends. I think that's best for the players and the coaches. Coaches can be with their families on the weekends. The players can get away from us on the weekend. But we want to get 3 practices in, mainly because the first 2 are helmet only, and then we get started just a little bit, bring them back on Monday, let Coach Glass work them out, and we can have meetings, but we don't work out again until Tuesday. And then obviously go Wednesday, Friday, and then Monday, Wednesday, Friday from that point on. We like to have a day in between practice, and we try to avoid practicing on the weekends in the spring.
But it's productive to give them a break, that spring break, and then bring them back in.
If not, the way the recruiting calendar is set up, for us, we would rather not practice 4 times a week, and we got to get on the road. There's a 6-week period that we have X number of days to be out recruiting. In order to fit that in, this schedule works best for our team.
You mentioned special teams there, Mike. You guys have been okay the last 2 or 3 years on special teams. You haven't been great the way you were before that. What steps can you take to sort of get your special teams back where they once were?
You know, it's interesting. When we had great returners, we were good on special teams. You know, when Tyreek Hill was running back punts and kicks, and I think that's fairly consistent. We have to make a decision on how many starters we want to use on those teams based on total number of reps they're getting on offense and defense. We've had long discussions about that over the last couple months in the off season, and I think the conclusion was that we wanted to base our reps and our schemes on the availability we had on guys that could help us, meaning that if we felt like that we had to use more players, then we could have a few more schemes. But if we needed to use veteran players that were going to get 50 or more plays on offense and defense, that we needed to be a little, or I guess not so broad with the plays we were using in special teams. But it certainly helps in your return games if you've got a guy that can make plays. We do have kickers back and we do have punters back, so that should help us as we start the season.
Do you think you do have anything special at the return game?
Well, McCleskey has got some ability. He can run and make plays, and overall for a true freshman, we thought he did a nice job last year. Jeff Carr has reshaped his body. We have a few other players that we're going to try to develop this spring in our return game, in the kickoff return, where those guys are more of straightaway burst guys than the side-to-side guys like on punt return. So we feel good about it, but we'll have to see what direction those guys move in the spring.
You guys have a lot of resources in the offseason and recruiting on the offensive line. In your mind, is that the biggest area where you can make a big step on the offense?
Well, we have a number of guys back, and we should change considerably in our size. We've the last couple years we've been somewhat small inside, and I think that the group that'll be there in the spring and maybe in the fall will give us more size. And if we can develop some toughness at the running back position, we're certainly going to push to try to develop and work hard in that area. Try to get a little bit better this spring and even a little bit better in August as we move toward the season.
Have you noticed a difference in Rudolph even from last season to now, just the leadership role he's taken?
Well, he's always been a good leader. He's been a tough guy, and the players respect him for that reason. And so he just continues to develop, and obviously he'll take over out there today. And I would think that the offense would rally around him from this point with the experience and the games that he's put on up to this point in his career.
How concerned are you about the running game?
Well, I'm always concerned about it. I think we all know that most offenses go as your quarterback goes, and then at some point you have to be able to establish some running game to have balance to be able to throw the ball. Defenses have made some strides in the last 3 years or so with spread offenses, and so as long as you have somebody that can run the ball and make a play, in most cases, if you look at our game, the guy that's running the ball has to run through somebody that's a halfway player. I mean, there's going to be some sort of contact at 3 to 5 yards, so he's either going to have to run through him or make him miss. Most defenses aren't going to play 5-man boxes and allow you to just rush the football. So your schemes are certainly one part of it, but the second part is you got to have guys that can run through tackles and make a miss in order to convert and force defenses to play some run and not just pass.
Along those same lines, what's your backup quarterback situation like? Do you have anybody you think, whether it's the guy coming in or who you have now, that can maybe fill that JW kind of role, or are you going to look into that?
Well, we're going to look into it a little bit. I don't know if we're as far along with JW's role, but, Kolar and Taylor are here, and they've had good off seasons and developed, and they'll get a lot of reps in the spring before we bring any of the new players in June. Hard to tell with those guys because they're not here. So at this point, we can work the guys that are in camp now and see how they develop over the next couple months.
Looked like your uniform deal was a big hit the other day. What was that like for all your guys, and especially having Dez and the NFL guys back?
It worked out really well for us, and Whedon and Dez and Bailey are great Oklahoma State legacies, and obviously our players were excited that Dez came back, and there was a lot of work that went into those uniforms. They're not just a new sleek style, but Matt Davis and Justin and in working with Nike came up with some real tradition to put in the uniforms with all the different things around the neck and sleeves and the sayings that are in the back of the jerseys. Being a former player and a graduate, I was most proud of that side of our uniforms as anything. I think that they're obviously very attractive, but there's some history to them. We're not just throwing out a lot of colors and designs. And I think the players really enjoy the uniforms, and I know that Whedon is here more because he's in the Oklahoma City area a lot in the off season. Dez was excited to be here and be around our team, and then of course Dan Bailey has always been terrific for us. So it was a really good day for us. Our media sources here in football did a great job of promoting it and handled it in a way that I thought was very beneficial for Oklahoma State University and our football team.
A lot of the players a minute ago were talking about being happy to be back in the field to get the bad taste of their mouth from the end of last season and those several losses. You're in a different position as a head coach, but is there any of that for you as well?
Well, not really. I mean, obviously we would have liked to have won those games, and But I always look at it a little bit different perspective, and I kind of know the situation that we were in and what we were up against. I'm excited about being back on the field because, as I've said many times before, we get 2 months in the spring to coach, and then we get 4 months in the fall to coach, and then the rest of the year we're doing things other than being on the field with our players, which we enjoy. So they've done a great job in the off season, and so we're looking forward to making improvements in areas that are possible in the spring, and then add to those in the fall.
Mike, I asked some of your players what they thought about Barry J. Sanders announcing he was going to transfer into the program, and I thought the best answer I got was from James Washington. He said, I don't know who he is or what he can do yet, because I'll admit, I'm curious. Talk a little, do you expect that to be maybe a motivating factor for some guys this spring, that maybe the running backs that are here, because when he comes in this summer, he's going to try and put his best foot forward?
I don't know what the rule is, how much I can say about him. I know he's got a release, but he's still a student at Stanford, so I'm not sure what I can say. I have said that he's shown interest, and we expect him to be here, and we're very excited about him being a part of our team, and we look forward to seeing what he can bring to the table. But I think what James said really kind of hits it head on, that most everybody is going to be curious of what he can bring to the table, and we won't know till June, till he gets here. But Chris, Carson, and Rennie and Jeff, those guys have worked hard in the off season, and we need them to perform better in the spring and develop some toughness and compete against themselves and give us the most that they're capable of, in order to make some improvements in the spring, as I said. And then in the fall, we'll see where we're at from the guys that finished the spring, and with the incoming freshmen, and obviously with junior, we'll work them in the summer and get started in August, and then really have to move fast. We need to get to some conclusion on who we feel like are going to be our 3 backs that can help us run the football better in the fall, and that would happen with us making some quick decisions in August, so those guys can get quality reps. As you know, you can't rep 5 guys. You rep 2, and another guy gets 20% of the work in case you need him in the game.
Do you think Carson still has another level, maybe?
Well, I don't know. It's yet to be determined. We certainly didn't get to that point last fall. I think there were a couple things that contributed to that. I'm not sure, but we're going to find out this spring. We're really going to push those guys as hard as possible to see if we can get some more productive physical play out of them. If so, then we continue to work with them. If not, we have to work with the young guys in August and try to get some other guys ready to play.
With John Kolar having been in the program 14 months, what are you going to do with him? Does he, and because Mason is a proven guy now, does Kolar get more reps with the ones maybe? Because we make a guy in that position just see what you have with him?
Well, as you know, we get a lot of reps in the spring, so Taylor and Kolar both are going to get a lot of work. And then as the spring moves forward, I would expect by halfway that Mason will be playing pretty well, and so we'll back off of his reps and let those other guys get as much quality work as possible to see how productive they can be in the spring.
What's your sense of what he'll provide for you?
I don't really know, because he's been on the scout team. I know he's gained almost 20 pounds. He can run. We have to develop him. We have to put him in these situations in the spring and see how he reacts. He needs to, in my opinion, up to this point, in watching him, he needs to play the game similar to what JW did and use the abilities that he has in order to manufacture another style, another way for him to attack a defense. And we've talked to him about that. And it'd be the same thing with Taylor, in a little bit of an opposite manner, in that he's more of a thrower, and so he needs to develop and really be productive in that area to help with his ability to run a little bit, because he can pull it and run just a little bit. So it'll be interesting to see what those guys do and how much we get out of them in the spring.
So Kolar would be, if there's a true
third down guy who could at least kind of replicate what JW did at Kohler?
I would hate to say yes right now because he just hasn't been in there. You know, I mean, we knew what we had with JW because he'd been there for 3 years and he had played a number of games at a high level. These guys hadn't been out on the field much, and Kohler not at all. So we're not really sure what we have with them. It'd be hard for me to say anything at this time.
Seeing JW now as a GA at TCU, I mean, does it seem like a good fit? Meacham over there and what they're doing on there?
Oh, I think anywhere JW is a good fit. I mean, I don't know that it matters one way or the other, but I think he, is off and running in his coaching career and will, in most cases, probably bounce around a little bit before he gets to the point where he wants to be.
There's a lot of OSU fans who were bummed out he didn't get a start here, but is it good for a guy to see a new program, see how other things are run, to kind of build more kind of a resume, I guess?
You think about if you put yourself in his situation, all of us, and the lifestyle that you lived in your last semester in college with your buddies, and then you had to come back a month later and you were telling them what to do as a coach, probably not the best thing. So I think it's good for him to get around some other programs. As I said, he'll probably go to 2 or 3 places before he gets going, unless something unusual happens. Oklahoma State is not a starter program anymore, where we take really young coaches that are inexperienced and put them at a level where they're coaching on the field. We've got a number of young coaches that have come through our program that are out there at other schools. They're developing themselves and bringing them on. And so maybe at one point at Oklahoma State, it was that kind of school. The program's not that way anymore. So most of the coaches that we bring in, even our graduate assistants and our younger coaches, quality guys, they're experienced. They're 25, 26, 27 years old, and they've coached 3 or 4 years somewhere. And in our opinion, that's the best way to get started.
Was that your experience, though, when you went from 89, being a player in 89 to being, you weren't even a GA, you were.
Right, but then I lived that life, one, so I saw both sides of it, and two, this program is different than it was in 1990. And at times, for a lot of different reasons, young coaches started here at a higher level than maybe what they should have. But now, when we have an opening for one of our what I call younger coach positions, we have guys that want the jobs that have 5, 6, 7 years experience coaching at a certain college level. So it's just changed. It's a different job now than it was 30 years ago or 25, 26 years ago.
A year ago, almost half your staff turned over. So you had a lot of pre-spring. Some of them, 2 of them, right? A week or 10 days before the start of spring is when you hired 2 of them, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So just to have that stability of the continuity of your staff, how much different has this offseason been?
What makes it much easier for recruiting, one, because we're really halfway through the class for 17. Most schools, as you know, will have 75% of their class intact by June. So that's helped. And personally, for me, it's been much easier because, it's a headache to go out and try to find quality people that fit and get their family or whatever it may take to get them across the country and get them started. We've been fortunate that we've hired really good coaches, so they pick up the systems fast, so it's not really as much of a deterrent is getting to know the players, building that relationship, and the recruiting areas.
Bill asked about John Kohler, but Taylor Cornelius, I figure, is in the mix.
Sure.
For that second job as well, for the backup job. I counted 5 other walk-ons this spring that could possibly factor in the depth chart, first or second team. And you got a bunch of kids I know you can't talk about that are coming in with this recruiting class that are preferred walk-ons. Assess your walk-on program a little bit because it's come up huge.
Well, we've backed up what we've said. We've brought young men in here, and if they factor in and contribute, then we put them on scholarship. And so it's worked out really well for our program, and reputation has gotten out there. People are aware of it, not only in this state but surrounding states. And so we've been an attractive location for high school seniors that have opportunities to play at maybe a little bit of what would be a lower level, or sometimes guys will even go to a junior college and then try to work their way out. Because of the success we've had here and rewarding young men that have fulfilled not only their goals but ours, when they get here, we're getting really quality young men. And I've said this for a number of years, that recruiting is a long ways away from being a perfect science. We miss all the time. We bring guys in that may not be able to perform athletically at a high enough level to play here, or when they get here, we had evaluated their seriousness or ability to dedicate themselves to football and education, and that it doesn't work out. And then there's other times that we miss on young men, like Jarwin or like Seaton, Dan Bailey. I mean, the list goes on and on. Allen, guys that come in and contribute and end up playing, and so we reward them. And for that reason, it's very attractive for a lot of players that are within a 4, 5, 6 hour drive to want to come to school here and try out and walk on.
Yeah, you have two former walk-on quarterbacks, one at A&M and one in Indiana.
Sure.
That may start this year. That's crazy.
And the second part of that is with the way transfers have that has changed over the last 3 or 4 years. Then sometimes you have players that can't get on the field as much as they want to, so then they go on somewhere else and have the opportunity to play. But we have to make quality decisions and be as informative as we can with each one of the young men, so we don't lead them in the wrong direction. And I think that helps us get other players in here to walk on, because we don't tell them one thing and do another. And so the ones that have that interest, they come and talk to our players that are on this team that have walked on, and they tell them that whatever we say we're going to do, we're going to do, and it helps our program.
You've been watching ball your whole life, and the other night you were just a few feet off the floor when Steph Curry played at Oak City. What you saw that out from him, how does that rank among individual performances in any kind of sport?
It was interesting. I took my 14-year-old with me, and he was watching him warm up and said that at one point he quit counting. He had made like 17 in a row during warm-ups. And then we went and sat down, and the first 2 or 3 minutes of the game he wasn't really around the ball much, and then he got the ball, and then he hit that I don't know, he's probably 3 or 4 feet behind the line, and he stepped back, and Durant was on him, and he extended his arm and he shot the ball and made that 3-pointer from way out. And so I kind of looked at him and he looked at me, and we're big Thunder fans. I mean, we love the Thunder. And he said, "I told you so." And that's the first time I'd ever seen anything like that. And then obviously it was interesting. He didn't play much of the first half, and then didn't play much of the second half because of the injury or for whatever reason. And then he ends up with 12 of 16 from behind the line. And driving home, I told Gunner, I said, what's really neat about this is you may have just seen what could be at some point the greatest shooter ever live. He's young. I mean, obviously he's got years to go. And not that my opinion matters. But I didn't say the player. I said shooter. Pretty phenomenal. I mean, just his ability to step back and throw the ball from his chest and go straight up in the air and come straight down and not touch the rim as many times as he did. He certainly broke my heart in that game, because I had the Thunder by 5. And if we would have just held on with 14 seconds, we'd have won by 4, and I'd have looked like a genius. But it didn't work out that way. But I tell you, it's a heck of a game now. Great game.
Weren't you just astonished when he pulled up from as deep as he was on that last shot? Right across from where he received.
Yes, and it's interesting. You hear a lot of people talk about it, and in being in athletics, you see a different side of it as a coach, no matter what the sport. But when they're challenging him coming down the court, and then they almost have a built-in feel for where they are on the court. Not I guess the term wouldn't be players have biological clocks. They know what's going on time-wise. Well, they also have a feel where they are on the field or the court. And he was so far away, I think they didn't think that he was going to shoot from there, so they kind of got in position to defend him. and obviously just pulled it up and shot it. But no, I don't know that I've ever seen Barry Sanders when he played, and Hartley Dykes could take your breath away. And that guy, he did that for me. That's for sure.
See Agba's performance in the combine turned a lot of heads with what
Mhm.
he was able to do. I mean, that's
Great.
what you kind of expected.
I'll be honest with you. I didn't expect him to run that fast at 273. I know that he was in great condition, and he's so mentally strong that he put himself in position at whatever draft status he was at. I don't know where he was at. I can't imagine that he didn't work his way up. And the reason for that is because he's so mentally tough that when the bowl game's over, he obviously has been so disciplined to diet, get his rest, train, lift, work on his running, everything that he's done to put himself there on a big stage and make lots of money, and he followed through on it. So we were very proud of what he accomplished, and I compare him to Russell Okun. He's graduating this spring. He comes out a year early. Doesn't have any issues. No risk. The best days could be ahead for him. And as effective as the defensive end pass rush part of the last 4 games or last 1, 2, 3 games in the NFL were, I can only imagine what people think about him with those guys' ability to get to a quarterback and change games.
With the loss of him and being,
Mm-hmm.
it may be statistically the most pressure you've ever lost from one defense.
No question, yeah.
So how do you feel about the guys like Grove and those guys?
I think they're really good prospects, and they're young and somewhat inexperienced. We had with Ogba a potential first-round pick or whatever. We know what we had with him, but Jimmy Bean's a really good player. And it wouldn't shock me if, in fact, it would surprise me if he doesn't get drafted late, depending on how they feel about his testing with his knee. But those guys were really good players for us. And I would think that these young guys will develop, but they're certainly not going to be as experienced as what we had with those guys when we start the season. We only hope that in games 5 and 6 and 7 that they start coming on and playing at a level that's somewhat in the same direction that those guys were.
I know that you can't really count on him until he gets here, but Traylon Weber, the JUCO kid from Glenn, the defensive end, I mean, he was by far the best pass rusher in that football conference, Southwest Conference. So, I mean, is he a guy, and he's 6'5", 250, a little more mature.
See, he's 270 now.
270?
He's 270, yeah. When we were there in January, he was already up to 268 or something like that. And so I would expect once he gets here with Rob and is eats in our restaurant, so on and so forth, that he could very well play at 270. And we like him. We like his demeanor and his attitude, and so hopefully he'll help us out. That's what we brought him in here for, to get in here and be able to help us in the first game.
Mike, I understand Josh Henson has joined with you. What can he bring for you? Exactly what's he going to be doing?
Well, we're hoping. He's kind of the leading candidate right now. He's coming in tomorrow to interview, and we got to visit with a couple guys, but we would like for him to be able to like the position enough to join us, and if so, most everybody here is familiar with Josh, has a wealth of experience and being in the SEC for a number of years, and obviously coordinating at Missouri, and so he's been well coached. He was trained not only as a player but as a coach by Les Miles, and Les is one of the best run game and offensive line coaches that I've ever been around. So I'm excited about him coming in here if it works out, and he build a relationship with the offensive staff and Greg and McAdoo, and should hopefully help our football team if we can get him up and get him going.
Coach, coming up on 120 here for your
Okay.
I just want to ask you about that JUCO offensive lineman, Larry Williams.
Mhm.
What do you expect from him? Do you think he can be an immediate impact kind of guy?
So far, yes. He hadn't taken a snap yet. But he's had a really good off season. He has showed some maturity. Has not shown up on a class miss list. Hadn't had any issues with him in the time that he's been here, which is really 2 months. He's developed his body. I think he's 325 now, something like that. And he's up to this point, he's run well. And so the best answer I can give you now is we're excited about what he's done up to this point. 2 weeks from now, should be able to, 3 weeks from now, spring break, but 3 weeks from now, should be able to get a much better opinion on him and if he's going to be productive enough to help us in the first game. Good. All right.